So this is the sign I made out of foam board here. This is just foam board that makes it look like wood, and then on the back I just glued a piece of thin wood here and some PVC so I could just slide it down on some rebarb into the ground with some other PVC down here on the bottom to help keep it off the ground and stuff. But I'm going to do a similar sign, but it's going to be a smaller sign, but show you how I did this one. So for the sign, we're going to use a piece of, actually it's a scrap piece of foam board, some foam insulation board I picked up at Home Depot. And I had actually used it as a test where I routed out another sign, the main sign over here. And so I'm going to use the rest of it to make another sign, much smaller sign than the one in the front yard. Okay, so these are the letters I printed out on my 3D printer. It's got a black background and a glow-in-the-dark center letter, about 4 millimeters thick, not super thick. But they show up really well during the day and at night. They sure show up very well at night, especially if you hit it with a black light. These letters glow like fantastic. So first thing we're going to do is put these in order for what we want it to say, and then we'll trim down the sign, the insulation board to the size of the sign we want with the letters on there, and then we'll start working on it to make it look like wood, and then we'll also route out where each one of these letters is going to go, similar to what we did over here as a test. All right, now we get the letters all laid out and kind of spaced out the way we want them. Now I'm going to use a Sharpie and I'm going to outline each one of those so that I know where they're placed on the board, and then I'm going to draw in some cracks and some like where boards would be at, as well as kind of design something on the end as far as some old wood goes and stuff. And then we're going to distress it and make it look more like wood, and then we're going to trim it out and route out these letters. So let's see. Okay, so we got all the letters drawn out, so we'll put those away here. And what we're going to do is kind of draw out if this were boards and stuff, basically. So let's assume like one board would be kind of through here a bit, right? Can you say? Something like that. Probably just two boards. Let's kind of jaunt the things here a bit to where they're kind of causing a bit of angles over here. Broken wood and stuff over here. And then, assuming we're going to want about the same amount of space over here, we can kind of go down like this. I draw this out a bit. Something like that, maybe. It kind of looks like a pretty good sign. So we'll cut this stuff out. What I'm going to do here is I'll get a razor blade and I'll cut that down. And I'll also go through here with a steel brush, and we'll kind of put some little creases through here for texture in the wood grain, basically. Okay, so we got a razor. I like to use this kind of a razor. It you can make it a little longer if you need to cut in some of these. But what we're going to want to do is cut it about a slight angle and come down with it at this angle. Because what we're going to do is want to kind of come down with this, and then we're going to come back the other way and cut it like this. That way this little thing will pop out, basically. Give you like kind of where the two boards are coming together. Okay, so we got this little thing cut in here. Let me zoom in a little bit to see if you can see down through here. So it doesn't look straight or anything. It looks like, hopefully it'll look like something worn. So now we're going to take this brush. We're going to just kind of brush it across here. You widen this out a little bit. We're just going to brush this across. And so what this is doing is adding in just little lines in there that look like wood grain. Just stretching across, and we're going to kind of focus it in certain areas, long ways like this, to really make it look, like some nuts maybe, or whatever. We're going to do that across the whole board, just adding some texture to the board, basically what we're doing, to look more like wood. Okay, so now we've Put quite a bit of some grooves in there, make it look like some pretty good texture. So I think that'll work pretty well. Now we're going to take this and we're going to cut out the sides and stuff. We'll probably add some holes in the bottom as well, just make it look pretty worn. Okay, so we've got most of this on this side cut out, so we're going to do kind of the same thing over here. Just going to cut down into this a bit. Doesn't have to be too super clean. Make it somewhat irregular looking, just so that, looks like this sign has aged quite a bit. Be very careful with these blades because they get a little out of control sometimes. Cut through a little bit deeper on these guys, probably. You just cut out whatever type pattern that you want on these. Does not have to be, in fact, you don't want it to look too good, honestly. There we go. And you can go in here and maybe cut these back a little bit so they're angled in a bit like this. Just that way you're not trying to deal with having too much of the paint show on the outside, but we're going to paint most all of this anyway. That edge looks pretty good as well. So that's got a little area up here on the top. We'll do something similar down here on the bottom, maybe like right about here. Something like that. Just make it look like a sign that's kind of seen better days, you know? There we go. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, looking pretty good there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to route out all of these, and then we may add some more cracks into the wood and stuff after we do that. But so far, looking pretty good. Okay, so we're going to use my little Ryobi router. Got these straight router bits, Home Depot. I'm going to use like the 1/2-inch bit here, and it looks like probably about a 1/4 inch maybe down that we'll use. And we'll route out the inside of all of these, and then we'll take the next step after that. We're just going to take and we're going to route out each one of these letters here. As soon as I remember how to turn this damn thing on, here we go. That's a bit deeper than we want it to be, so we're gonna adjust this down a little bit more. So make it a little bit more shallow. That's a little bit deeper than I want. All right, let's pick it back up again. Better view here. Alrighty, here's a better view of this thing working. Just carve it out like that, pretty easy. Okay, we now have everything all kind of cut out here, and the letters have been routed down. So now I'll double check the letters and make sure they fit, and then we're going to coat this with some dry lock, and then once that dries, we'll paint it and glue the stuff in. Okay, everything looks like it fits pretty well. All the letters fit down into the little grooves that are routed. So I'm going to paint this whole thing with some dry lock. It'll just help with keep the texture in, and just help with the sun, so it won't like melt this down too quickly. Okay, now we have the whole thing painted with dry lock. So this is dry lock. It's like a masonry waterproof stuff. Just paint it on kind of light. You do have to get inside the route it out, so as you can build up quite a bit sometimes, and it'll make the letters a little harder to get in there. So I cut these out a little bit broader than I normally would, or I have in the past rather, just so there's plenty of room. So I'll let this dry probably overnight, and then I'll come back and then we'll start painting it. Okay, so the sign has dried overnight. It looks pretty good actually, in my opinion. So now we're gonna just hit it up with some brown spray paint. This is a bit darker. I got some lighter stuff and some black I'll add on later, but this is just for the good base coat of the for the item. Just hit it up, spray it well. Got the garage door open to make sure I don't kill myself from fumes. That is. There you go. Want to get it from a couple of angles, that way you're making sure you're getting down into all those little grooves that you got are carved in there. And we'll highlight some of these later with some black paint, but I think that's good for right now. That's a good base coat, and we'll continue another coat later. All right, so it's looking pretty good. We got a single coat of paint on there. Painted a little bit around the back, all the edges and everything, of course. Now we're gonna hit it with a little bit lighter paint, but not as, we're just gonna kind of hit it a little bit, kind of in the middle a little bit. Just kind of lighten things up here and there. Some worn look, you know, make it look a little bit worn. There we go. That looks pretty good. Then we're going to use the black paint, a little bit of black. This is where we want to hit these edges. The edges over here where it's kind of been rotted. We want it to look a little rotted. Kind of along the edges like this. So just kind of, and then kind of lightly on the rest of it. Let's kind of see here as well. All right. Loosen up some of those other areas a little bit. All right, I think we're looking very good there. So overall, I think this is going to be very good. We're going to just do some more tweaking. I'll get a paintbrush and we'll go through some of these lines with some black paint and then thin it out a little bit. But overall, I think it's looking very good. All right. Paint-wise, I think all we're going to do is highlight some of these cracks with some black paint. I got some little black paint here. Just super generic acrylic paint. We'll just go in here and just start filling in some of these gaps, and then we'll kind of lighten them up a little bit. They don't have to look super clean or anything. And that's going to be about it. And then we're going to glue the letters in place, and we should be pretty good. Last thing we're going to do here, or at least for the front of the sign, is we're going to start gluing in the letters. So we're just using some Loctite extreme glue. Doesn't take a lot, just enough to kind of get this stuff to stay in there. And we're just going to push it in, and that's going to be it. We're going to do the rest of the letters, and then we'll figure out if we want to do something on the back for mounting or just leave it as is. Okay, so now we got everything on there. The letters are glued on, 3D printed letters with glow in the dark, kind of raised green area here. Are glued on. We're going to let this dry for a while and then come back and we'll figure out what we're going to do with it. But I think it came out pretty well, honestly. And this is the finished sign. I think it looks pretty good. I've got it just out in the yard, sitting in the lap of a skeleton. I was a little concerned that the wind might blow it away, so I glued a piece of scrap wood on the back and just zip tied it to the skeleton. And the skeleton is anchored with a wooden stake, so hopefully that'll keep it in place. But overall, I really like the way it looks. And I'll do another video with it at night just so you can see that as well. And this is how the sign looks at night. It rounds out the side yard pretty well. We have room for one more. This is kind of a little reference to the end of the Haunted Mansion ride at Disneyland, Disney World, where they kind of have we have room for one more, so I figured we'd have room for one more person in the graveyard. And to wrap things up, this is the Halloween display in the front yard, and here's the sign we started with the 3D printed glow-in-the-dark letters, and kind of really sets it off. I love the way it looks. So anyway, like and subscribe, I guess, and have a great Halloween.